Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, welcome back to my video, and today in this occasion we are going to talk about history Islamic education again, but in different topics. So before any further ado, let's get started. So the main discussion is the main discussion of this presentation are: first, concept of Islamic education history, definition, function, scope, periodization, and then history and historical sciences, Islamic education in Patani, Thailand, Islamic education of the Umayyad dynasty in Damascus and Andalusia, and then the last one, Islamic education model, Nadatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, and Al-Irshad. Okay, for the first one, Islamic education history, definition, function, scope, and periodization. According to Fakhrezy, history is a very important tool for the study of Islamic education. Meanwhile, according to Dr. Hasbullah, the history of Islamic education is a record of every event of the growth and development of Islamic education since the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW until now. The function of the history Islamic education studies the history of providing information about the practice of Islamic education since the time of the Prophet Muhammad to the present. It is based on the growth, development, progress, decline, and revival of Islamic education. The history of Islamic education also has used in order to build and develop Islamic education. In this case, the history of Islamic education will provide a direction for the progress that has been experienced in dynamism so that the development remain within the framework of a complete and fundamental view. The scope in the history Islamic education includes one of the important aspects that determine the relevance and significance of history, or a fragment of history, is the context that surrounds it. For example, the early growth of educational activities in Islam is certainly closely related to the surrounding situation of Arabia before and the beginning of Islam. Then, in the aspect of educational institutions are proven to grow in the span of the history of Islamic civilization, providing space and support for improving the quality of educational activities including mosque, madrasas, Qur'ans, ahadith, khanqa, zawiyah, and so on. After that, in the aspect of educational itself, part of the science that is the content of Muslim education comes from international development, but very much is also the result of the adaptation of the scientific tradition of other nations from outside. The formation of Islamic classical sciences such as Al-Quran, Al-Hadith, history, Kalam, Fiqh, Sufism are a reflection of the intellectual creativity of Muslims. It is also inseparable in the aspect of its methods, where Islamic civilization is regarded as a civilization that develops empirical methods in development of science and religious sciences. There are three types of periodization that are most commonly used in the study of history of Islamic education. The first is periodization, which refers to turnover and power. In this periodization of the model, the development of Islamic education is divided into: first, Islamic education at the time of the Prophet Nabi Muhammad SAW, and second, Khulafaur Rashidin, and then Umayyad dynasty, Abbasiyad dynasty, the Great Kingdoms, Western colonial period, and so on. The second model, periodization, is which refers more to the unit of time that the history of Islamic civilization in general went through. Here, this theory of Islamic education is distinguished in three periods: Islamic education in classical times, 600 until 1250, Islamic education in the middle period, 1250 until 1800, and then the last one, Islamic education in modern times in 1800 onwards. The third periodization model divides the history of Islamic education by referring to the qualitative dynamics of Islamic education itself. This model gave birth to the following periodization. First, Islamic education during the laying of the foundation in the early development period, in its heyday during the stagnant period, education in the neural period, and so on. So, for the next one, number 2, history and historical sciences. History itself today has some meaning as a story or an event that has actually happened in the past. Then followed by a Ministry of National Education provides an understanding of history as a subject that instills knowledge and values regarding the process of change and development of Indonesian society, or maybe the world, from the past to the present. But what is clear that history is a depiction or reconstruction of events, stories, and that have actually happened in the past. For the historical science itself, history is categorized as a humanities mainly because in history it preserves and records cultural heritage and interprets the meaning of the development of mankind. That is why in the historiographical and explanatory stages, history requires touches of aesthetics of beauty. Number 3 is Islamic education in Patani, Thailand. Education, including Islamic education carried out in Thailand, has similarities with Islamic education carried out in Indonesia, including um, the Thailand and Indonesia education system both have formal education, non-formal education, and informal education. Then, second, Islamic educational institutions in Thailand and Indonesia have the same name as huts and madrasa, and in terms of the material thought are also relatively the same because especially cottages in Thailand are dropping huts from Java. In madrasa educational institution, they also use the classical system, and material thought is the same as madrasa in Indonesia, which is to combine religious material with the public. In Thailand, it is also known as 9-year compulsory education as in Indonesia. In Thailand, Ujian Nasional is also held, the final exam. Although both carry out unemployment, the subjects tested are more than those tested in Indonesia. It is mandatory to learn in Thailand. This was done by the government under the pretext of nationalism, but on the other hand, there was an element to eliminate the Malay language commonly used by the Muslim population. In Thailand, the subjects of art, career, and technology are included in subjects that are in final exam. Okay, move forward. to number 4, Islamic education of the Umayyad dynasty and Damascus and Andalusia. During the Umayyad dynasty, the pattern of education was decentralized. Decentralization means that education is not only centralized in the capital of the state, but has been developed autonomously in areas that have been controlled. Along with territorial expansion, the education system at the time didn't yet have age levels and standards. The studies were such as in kutubs, mosques, literary assemblies, palace education, and the formation of Badia. For the condition of education in Andalusia, it can be seen in higher education institution where the development of universities reaches the peak of progress. There are 17 libraries, and one of them has more than 100,000 books. Many students, both Christian and Jews and Islamic, came to Spain to enter the college, not only from Europe but also from Africa and Asia. The development of education and the development of Islamic science and Andalusian technology by Muslims divided into two major areas, namely agronomy and philosophy, studied from the works of Aristotle. Then educational studies at the same time were centered in Damascus, Kufa, Mecca, Medina, Egypt, Cordoba, and several other cities such as Basra, Kufa or Iraq, Damascus and Palestine, the Levant, Pakistan, and Egypt. Among the sciences developed are medicine, philosophy, astronomy, exact sciences, literature, arts, building, fine arts, and music. Thus education not only centered in Medina as it was in the days of Prophet and Khulafaur Rashidin, but rather it has undergone expansion along with territorial expansion. The education is also divided into two, special education and education for the common people. Okay, for the last one, number 5, about Islamic education model in Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, and Al-Irshad. The composition of Nahdlatul Ulama madrasa and schools has undergone many changes and improvements. During K. Haji Hashim Ash'ari served as Minister of Religion, he took the decision to conform the Western education, namely by incorporating general lessons into madrasa. At the end of 13 and 56 Hijriah or 19 and 38 Masehi, the Nahdlatul College Commission had issued a judgment on the arrangements of Nahdlatul Ulama Madrasah, which should be run from to Muharram 13 and 57. The composition of the madrasa is as follows: Madrasa Awaliyah, it's for 2 years, and then for the MA is 3 years, MDS 3 years, Madrasah Muallimin Wusta 2 years, and then the last one Madrasah Muallimin Ulia for 3 years of study. In the field of education of Al-Irshad, founded of Madrasah, the first one Awaliyah for 3 years study of time, and then Ibtidaiyah 4 years, Tajhiziyah 2 years, and Muallimin 4 years. The last one Superstition, long time learnings for 2 years. The improvement of school organization began in 1924 when a rule that only children under the age of 10 could be admitted to the first grade to the basic school. Students from the teacher's school are also allowed teaching exercises. Children who are more than 10 years old are allowed to enter the higher class depending on their ability during the entrance exam. In 1940, the entire Al-Irshad Madrasah was closed for unclear reasons. After Indonesia became independent, Al-Irshad reopened, but not like madrasahs as before, but in the form of public schools such as SR, junior high school, and high school. And the last one, Muhammadiyah has carried out its activities in the form of establishing madrasah and pesantren by including educational curriculum and teaching general and modern sciences, establishing public schools by including Islamic and Muhammadiyah curriculum. The education institution established above are managed in the form of charitable enterprises with the organizer forming an assembly under the name of the Primary and Secondary Education Council, vertically starting from the central leadership to the branch leader level. Muhammadiyah education institution in the early stages of their development used the packaging of public schools by adding Islamic subjects in them. The Muhammadiyah Islamic education movement appears to be more focused on establishing public schools, although the Islamic education system, including boarding schools and Islamic boarding schools, and gaining attention. Muhammadiyah built massively plus public schools, but in limited number. Muhammadiyah still felt the need to maintain Islamic education institutions such as Madrasah Mu'alimin and Pesantren. From the increasing number of Muhammadiyah schools, Muhammadiyah has become a force that is highly regarded in the national education system. Okay, so that is the explanation about the history of Islamic education for 5 main discussion. Thank you for your attention and watching this video, and have a nice day. See you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace.